So, today we're going to be going over Nathan Sobieralski's Salt Shaker Mute, or S Mute. This is a really cool, new to the market trombone mute that I love for its versatility and its options. Let's go over what you're going to get when you get one and all the sound differences that you can. We'll also be comparing it to different bucket mutes or bucket mute options, because this is my favorite bucket mute option, especially for traveling. And we'll also compare it to a practice mute just so you can see the difference. Again, the versatility of this mute is really second to none. So, what do you get when you get an S mute, a salt shaker mute? Well, you get a couple of options, which you can see here, a couple of felt pads, and a couple of different end caps. There's currently a Generation 2 end cap, which I'll go over in a minute, but you get this thicker piece of felt and these two thinner pieces of felt, as well as two end caps. One of them is a perforated kind of cover with a felt inside. The other one is just flat with no felt inside. These are the Generation 2 models, if I remember correctly. The first time I received the mute with the original options, you had, again, a non-perforated end cap with no felt in it. And you also had a perforated end cap with no felt. So there's a total of 4 options on the market so far. You have the perforated caps with both no felt and felt, and then you have 2 different options of end cap, which are, if you could tell, the circle here is a little bit bigger, and there's slightly more threading, as well as this like edge to help grip on the newer version. I actually really appreciate the newer version. It has kind of a better sound, and I think that the footprint of this, the flatter edge, as well as the deeper quality of it, it's kind of tough to see there, but because there's more threads on this, this goes kind of deeper. It's just result in a better sound quality. All right, so what can you do? This is a 2-piece 3D printed, I assume, construction. There's a seam here that you can kind of see. Now on the inside, it's just kind of flat. So we can test out the various models. We can see what it's like with different sounds. Let's try the perforated no felt option, see what that does for the sound. We'll try all these different options on kind of the same, little harmonic rips and whatever. So we'll try stuff like that. All right. So this is that perforated end cap with no felt in it. One thing I like about these mutes, in addition, is it tends to sound really good everywhere in the register. If I had to compare that mute to something, it almost has like a straight mute like sound, but maybe a little bit more open, because again, there's no felt or anything else in here. So maybe more akin to a bucket mute. All right, which is always fun. Let's see what that same end cap is like now with the felt put in. Now the felt's interesting. You can either put it in flat or you could put it in sideways, which is a favorite option of a lot of people. So for the first try, and of course there's the one of this with the felt already in it, but let's try what this is like with the thicker felt in a flat configuration. Again, you get more of a bucket-like sound. We'll compare my favorite configuration with the buckets in a minute. But let's see what happens now if we realign the felt. So now instead of being flat in, we're going to put it in kind of perpendicular to the opening. Again, intonation of low range is not always a given on every mute, so I'm happy to hear that on this. That's the thicker felt pad, There's also these options of, oh, I got two other felts, but you could use a thinner felt as well. Let's see what that thinner felt is like. Uh, oh, it doesn't really quite fit in unless you kind of push it in. So we're just going to do that. So now it's configured like this. And that's probably going to block a significant amount of the sound. This is an option I haven't really tried much. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to find the seam here, to find the thread. Sorry, I remember that from my old firefighting days. So again, that's the thinner felt, kind of like far back in the throat of the original part of the adaptation. Let's see what it's like if we just put it more in the middle. So it kind of has this type of look here. And again, that was like the perpendicular version, but with a lot less felt in the way. A lot clearer. The response is pretty good. What I like about that configuration as opposed to the other one, when the felt's like kind of stuffed all the way down, it does get like a little like floppy, for lack of a better term. Since you have two felts, one thing you can try is kind of aligning them on either side of the rim like this to kind of create a felt inside of the cone. Let's see what that sounds like. Because with the one piece of felt, you have the same amount of coverage, but it's in like kind of a block configuration. With the two pieces of felt, you have a lot more room in the middle. I want to see how that changes. That gets a very nice bucket-like sound also, but maybe with like a little bit more front to the sound than I usually think of traditionally with the bucket. So that's the non-perforated, that's the perforated non-felt option. We also have the perforated version with the felt in it. And I don't think we're going to go through every configuration, but let's hear what this is like open and with the thicker piece of felt. So it's very familiar to what this is like with these on either side, I think. Which is nice, but it just needs less fiddling around to get that sound, which is always good. Less fiddling, better, especially if you're trying to, remember exactly what to do. Let's try this perpendicular, the thicker felt, along with the felt end cap here. This is one of my favorite configurations, and I think this is the most bucket-like sound, except for maybe one. So that affects intonation a little bit more. Again, so that's our perforated cap with the felt in with the secondary felt, and that's reminding me that the new generation flat end cap, along with this in the perpendicular way, that's actually my true favorite. I'm trying to remember all these options right now. This to me is my go-to sound for bucket, partly because it fits in the bell so well. You can just kind of keep it in the bell. It's very flat with the case. It barely sticks out. Fits in almost everything except for maybe the Marcus Bona option, but again, it's only a couple centimeters out. And if you absolutely need to keep it in a Marcus Bona case because it doesn't fit that little bit, if you take the end cap off, it will be flat with the bell because the end cap's about the only thing sticking out. But again, let's try this sound and let's compare this sound, the second generation flat end cap with the perpendicular thick felt, with the bucket mute, more traditional bucket mute options. Alright, so that's kind of like our basis, right? So let's take our usual bucket mute. This is like the Joe Rell thing is gigantic. That's people's like main complaint about. It's a little on the heavier side. It's usually stuffed with felt. It's a little bit harder to travel with. When it falls out, it makes a sound. But let's see what that bucket mute sounds like. So it's maybe a little bit rounder, a little bit slightly more open sounding, but again, the trade-off is pretty massive. A lot of people now use soft tone mutes, and especially on tenor and bass, when you just cover half the bell, you just kind of leave it hanging over like a hat, you again get a very bucket mute like sound. Again, just a soft neoprene cover, which kind of works wonders. And let's compare that again with kind of the bucket mute option that's my usual go-to. So maybe it doesn't sound as open and round as this bucket mute, but I like the clarity it has along with enough of the bucket-like sound that if I have to choose for a solo piece, I'm kind of going with this. It gives me a little bit more power and a little bit less back pressure, which is a very nice option. Along with that, we can also use this without the felt. This is the second generation end cap again. It's the one that you would probably get if you order now. Very good. Very good option. And let's see how it sounds with no felt inside. Almost like a solo tone or pixie, but still with its own distinct color. And again, this is the second generation end cap. If you have the first generation end cap, it has this slightly smaller thing here. It doesn't have the ridges on the side, and it has like one less layer of thread on it. That again has its own sound. I hope somebody's keeping like a running tab of how many times I forget my slide locks on while I'm trying to move all these mutes around, because it's a lot by now. Now, other options with this is you can use a single piece of felt, and you can kind of put that in perpendicular and use again the flat end cap. You get a slightly different sound again. Again, slightly different sounds kind of the name of the game with this. It's so customizable. That's what's really great about it. And that's not bad either. Like, the ability for one mute and a couple options to give you so many sounds is really great. Now, there's also something really fun about this mute. This is kind of a secret, like, bonus thing. It's got a secret mode to it, and that is using no uncap whatsoever. So you just use the mute with nothing else in it. And you get like a nice little like circusy sound from it, which again, if you just need something like, if you're using the mute and like a director says they need just like a little bit more presence or a little bit more like pop to the sound, you can just completely remove the end cap and have that option. You could also do the same thing with the thicker felt. And you could use some of the thinner felts as well. Or if you wanted to cover up even more of the sound, but you still need some projection without the end cap. Again, I think that's kind of like the secret mode of these, which is really exciting to be able to have so many customizable options. So, you know, with two different end caps, two pieces of felt, one thick felt, and the ability to open it, you're already at something like 16 different options. You could really customize this and make it sound any way that you like. My favorite is the thick felt and the second generation end cap. This is my go-to travel bucket model. These things, they hold up, they're very sturdy. It's already survived a couple of tours. And the difference in the footprint in a mute bag when you're talking about like traveling with multiple mutes or something like that, there's such a massive difference in carrying stuff around, and these things get clanked so often that I'm pretty much almost always going to be taking this with me. One other great feature about this is with a lot of mutes the cork comes off, right? So, but this has these special inserts, and you can get different levels of cork length. It's 3D printed so that the cork holders are already on the mute, and then these just kind of slip on, right? Where am I here? From the top, yep. And that means that when you're on the road, you're going to have a lot less like emergency cork finding or something like that, or having to do that. Like they just slide on and off super easy. So in case you need to have a thicker or thinner cork to fit in your bell, you have that option as well. And then they just click back on, which feels so great because the amount of times I've had like cork slip on mutes or start moving around on me, it's always maddening. All right, so that's a review and an overview of Nathan Sobieralski's salt shaker mute. I highly recommend this. They go for anywhere from $75 to $85, depending on if there's a sale. And the endless customizability of it, customization, whatever the word is, really makes it so that you get a lot of bang for your buck for this mute. All right, well-designed product, highly recommended for trombone players. Thanks.